I met my ex years later, and nothing was over.
The wedding hall gleamed with an almost surreal brilliance. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft golden glow over the polished wooden floors, and the air vibrated with laughter, music, and the hum of conversation. Emily moved through the crowd, her heels clicking softly against the floor, and yet she felt distant from it all. Weddings were supposed to be joyous, a celebration of love and new beginnings. But for her, tonight was laid with a strange tension, a quiet expectation she couldn't name. She tried to focus on the familiar faces, friends from college, colleagues she hadn't seen in years, but her gaze kept drifting, scanning the room as though she was searching for something she could not yet name. Then she saw him. Alex. It was impossible to mistake him. He stood near the entrance, casually observing the room, the posture familiar yet subtly refined by the passage of time. Taller, yes, a little older, his suit tailored with a precision Emily remembered he would always appreciate, but undeniably him. The same crooked smile lingered on his lips, a smile that had once left her breathless and made her pulse quicken without warning.
The same glint in his eyes that had always suggested mischief, promise, and understanding all at once.
Emily froze. Her chest tightened, and for the briefest moment it felt as though the world had slowed to a crawl. Time had not erased him. 7 years had passed, yet there he was, tangible and alive, as though he had been waiting for this very night to reappear. Every carefully constructed wall she had built around her emotions trembled, threatening to crumble completely. The memories came rushing back, relentless and vivid. She remembered the tiny apartment they had shared in college, where the hum of city life outside the window had seemed like a protective bubble just for them. Late-night conversations spilled over coffee cups, laughter echoing in the small rooms, and the quiet, intimate moments where words weren't necessary to understand one another. She recalled the nights spent sprawled on the couch with their favorite movies, shoulders touching, fingers brushing, hearts entwined in ways that had once felt eternal. And then came the heartbreak, the argument that had torn them apart with words sharp and cruel. The way he had walked out without looking back, leaving her with a hollow ache that seemed impossible to heal. The nights she had spent staring at the ceiling, replaying their moments, questioning what she could have done differently. Emily had believed time would dull the pain. She had believed the distance would make it easier to move on, to build a life without him. She had dated, she had laughed, she had loved, but always with an awareness that no one could replace what they had shared. And now seeing him again, all of that belief collapsed.
The past was not past, it had been lying in wait, patient and insistent, ready to re-emerge at the exact moment her will felt steady enough to falter.
He noticed her immediately.
It was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone else, but Emily caught it. The slight shift in his stance, the softening of his eyes, the almost imperceptible lift of his lips, it was as if some invisible string still connected them, tugging insistently across the years of separation. The pull was magnetic, undeniable, and terrifying.
Emily tried to steady herself, taking a deep breath, pressing her fingers against the fabric of her dress as though anchoring herself to reality. She had rehearsed countless scenarios in her mind over the years, what she would say if they met again, how she would act, how she could keep her composure. But rehearsed words dissolved instantly under the weight of seeing him. There were no words that could contain the storm he had stirred in her chest, no gesture that could prepare her for the flood of nostalgia, longing, and regret that came with his presence. The memories multiplied, layering themselves over the present with vivid clarity. She remembered the walks they had taken across the campus lawn, the way the night air had carried their laughter like a melody, the sense that the world had been theirs alone for a time. She remembered stolen kisses under the dim glow of streetlights, hands entwined, promises whispered that felt eternal. She remembered the arguments too, the fights fueled by youthful pride and stubbornness, the misunderstandings that neither knew how to resolve, the sharp edges of words that had cut deeper than either had intended. Emily's chest ached with the knowledge that she had carried those memories carefully tucked away, but never truly gone. They had lived quietly within her, shaping her, guiding her, and now they surged back into consciousness with Alex's mere presence. The room moved around her in a blur. Friends she had come to greet smiled and waved, but she barely noticed them. Her focus was entirely on him, tracing the contours of his face, the familiar lines softened and sharpened by the years. She noticed the subtle grey at his temples, the way his suit hung just so, the confident posture that suggested a life built carefully, independently, without her. And yet, beneath it all, he remained the man who had once held her heart in his hands. She wondered if he felt the same pull she did. Could he recognize it in her gaze, the unspoken longing, the sudden, almost painful awareness that time had not diminished what they had shared? She thought she saw a flicker of something in his eyes, as softening her recognition, a momentary pause in his otherwise composed demeanor.
It was fleeting, like a candle flickering in the wind, but it was enough to ignite the old fire within her chest.
Emily's thoughts drifted to the years they had spent apart. She remembered the attempts to move on, the dates that never quite reached the depth of their connection, the fleeting smiles of strangers who could never understand the quiet intensity of what she had shared with him. She had learned to live with absence, to fill the spaces he had left with work, friends, and a semblance of normalcy. But absence, she realized now, had never truly erased him. The night wore on in a haze of champagne flutes and soft music. Emily moved through the crowd, each step deliberate, each movement weighed with the possibility of encountering him again. And she did. Every accidental proximity, every brush of shoulders, every fleeting glance carried with it the weight of 7 years, the unspoken acknowledgement of the connection that had never truly faded. Her mind wandered back to college, to quiet nights on the balcony of their apartment, the city lights stretched below them, the air filled with the scent of summer and promise. She remembered the arguments that had seemed so monumental at the time, now small and almost laughable in hindsight, yet still sharp enough to leave a scar. She remembered the first night they had kissed, the way her heart had raced, the world shrinking to the space between them. And she remembered the night he had left, the way the door had closed behind him with a finality that had made her feel as though the world itself had tilted and left her dangling. Emily's thoughts returned to the present. She watched him laugh at something a friend said, the sound carrying the warmth she had never stopped craving. She noticed the way he gestured with his hands, the subtle expressions that had once been a language only she understood. And she felt it an ache, a pull, a longing that was both painful and exhilarating. She realized that the past was not merely a memory, it was a living, breathing presence waiting for a moment like this to assert itself. The realization was both terrifying and thrilling. For all the years she had spent trying to move on, to forget, to heal, she understood now that some loves were not meant to fade. They endured quietly, persistently, until the moment came when they could no longer be denied. As the evening drew to a close, Emily felt a mixture of fear and anticipation. Seeing him again had stirred something profound within her, something she could not name or control. It was not nostalgia alone, it was recognition, longing, regret, and the undeniable spark of a love that had never truly ended. Walking home later, the streets quiet under the soft glow of streetlights, Emily replayed every detail in her mind. The curve of his smile, the flicker of recognition in his eyes, the way his presence had made her feel both alive and fragile simultaneously. She realized, with startling clarity, that meeting him again had not reopened old wounds. They had never fully healed because they had never truly closed. Some loves, she thought, were never meant to end. Some loves, no matter how much time passed, no matter how far apart two people became, persisted quietly in the heart, waiting for the moment they could be rediscovered. And Emily knew as she turned the key in her apartment door that rediscovery had begun.
The morning sunlight poured into the small cafe, casting a warm glow across the polished wooden floors and the mosaic-tiled walls.
Emily hesitated for a fraction of a second before stepping inside, the soft click of her heels sounding impossibly loud in the quiet morning space. She had arrived early, hoping to collect herself before the inevitable, and yet the moment her eyes landed on him, all control dissolved. There he was, Alex, seated near the window, back straight yet relaxed, his head slightly tilted as if he were observing the world through a lens that only he could see.
The sun caught in the faint strands of lighter hair at his temple, and his eyes flicked toward the door, immediately finding hers.
The world shifted in an instant, a low hum running through her chest, a fluttering she hadn't felt in years. For a heartbeat, Emily considered turning around. She could walk away, pretend this was just another day, another cafe. But some force, intuitive, insistent, pushed her forward. She drew in a breath, trying to steady her racing heart, and slid into the chair across from him. The cafe was quiet but alive, the faint hiss of the espresso machine, the low chatter of a few patrons, the distant clang of silverware. And yet, between them, there was only a silence thick with anticipation, a quiet acknowledgement that 7 years of absence had not diminished what existed here. Her gaze met his, and in that single glance, Emily felt the weight of history settle around them. Every shared memory, every argument, every secret laugh came rushing back like a tide she could not hold back. Finally, she broke the silence, her voice soft but deliberate. It's been a long time.
He looked at her carefully, a shadow of a smile tugging at his lips.
7 years, almost to the day.
A laugh tinged with disbelief and nerves escaped her.
I didn't think I'd ever see you here.
I could say the same, he replied, voice low and steady. Life, it has a way of surprising us, doesn't it?
Emily nodded, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. I thought after all this time things would feel different.
Less intense.
Alex's eyes softened, lingering on her face.
I thought that too.
But here we are.
And it feels impossible to ignore. She remembered the nights in college, where he had said something similar, the way those words had lingered in her mind, comforting and terrifying, all at once. Her fingers traced the rim of her cup, hesitating over the heat, over the familiar comfort of routine, over the memories he had left behind. "Do you ever think about the past?"
she asked. About this?
Alex's jaw tightened for a split second, subtle but revealing. Every day. I've tried not to, tried to push it away, but it's always there.
Like it never really left.
The confession, even framed in such simplicity, made her chest ache.
I feel the same.
I tried to move on. I really have, but then I see you, and it's like no time has passed at all. He leaned back, the faintest sigh escaping him, carrying both relief and a hint of regret.
I keep imagining what would have happened if we hadn't, if we had just stayed together.
Emily felt the familiar pang in her chest. I imagine that too, she admitted, voice catching.
It's like a parallel life, one I sometimes wish I could step into.
For a moment, silence reclaimed the space between them, but it was not uncomfortable.
It was reflective, filled with the gravity of years spent apart, years of choices and consequences.
Emily remembered their last night together, the argument, the slammed doors, the cold apartment that felt impossibly large and empty. She remembered the weight of regret that had seeped into her nights for years, creeping into her thoughts like a shadow.
Alex broke the silence, voice soft but firm. Do you regret it?
How it ended?
She shook her head slowly, though the tension in her chest told another story.
Not the end itself, just how it happened.
All the things we never said, all the chances we didn't take.
That's the part that stays with me.
He nodded, the expression on his face revealing he carried the same burden.
I know.
I wondered if you think about me the way I think about you.
I do,
she whispered, almost to herself.
More than I want to admit. Some nights I still remember the way your hand felt in mine, the way it made the world feel smaller.
Alex's hand moved almost unconsciously, hovering just above the table for a moment before he pulled it back. I remember it too, he said. Every detail. The way your fingers fit with mine, the warmth, the quiet, it's unfair how vivid it all is. A strange mixture of longing and fear pressed against Emily's chest.
She remembered the little things, the quirks and moments that had made him unforgettable, the tilt of his head when he listened intently, the subtle furrow of his brow when he concentrated, the way he had always made her feel seen.
She realized with a pang that she had never truly left him behind.
Do you ever think, she began hesitantly, that maybe some things aren't meant to be forgotten? Alex's gaze held hers, steady and unwavering. I've been thinking about that a lot. Maybe some loves are like anchors. You can't drift too far without feeling the pull. Emily swallowed, a warmth creeping up her throat. She wanted to reach out, to close the tiny gap between them, but restraint held her back. So what do we do with that? She asked softly. With all this history between us? He tilted his head slightly, eyes searching hers as though considering the answer.
We start small.
We talk. We see if the old threads can be woven back together carefully, without rushing, without breaking again. A small smile tugged at her lips, mingling relief with hope. I think I want that.
Even if it's terrifying.
Me too, he admitted, the faintest curve of his lips softening the intensity in his eyes.
More than I can say.
The conversation drifted, winding naturally from memories of college, favorite places they had once explored together, moments that had seemed insignificant, but were etched deeply in their hearts. Laughter broke through, small and tentative at first, then warmer as the familiarity of each other's presence settled in. Even 7 years apart, the rhythm of their interaction flowed easily, naturally, like a song remembered after a long silence. They spoke of their current lives, subtly revealing fragments of themselves without exposing everything, leaving room for curiosity and discovery. Emily felt a pull in her chest she had not expected, a mixture of exhilaration, relief, and the ache of longing that had been dormant for too long. By the time they stepped out of the cafe, the world seemed to hum with possibility. Every glance shared, every unspoken understanding carried a weight that neither could ignore. Emily realized that this first conversation had done more than reconnect them. It had reopened a chapter that was never truly finished, a chapter neither time nor distance could erase. The afternoon sun filtered through Emily's apartment windows, painting the room in soft golden hues.
She sat on the edge of the sofa at the conversation, with Alex from the cafe replaying in her mind like a film she could not stop watching.
Every word, every glance, every fleeting gesture pulled
her heart in directions she hadn't anticipated.
It was impossible not to think of the past, the decisions, the misunderstandings, the moments that had driven them apart.
Even now, 7 years later, the memories remain vivid, sharp with longing and regret.
She remembered the way he had looked the night they ended things, the storm raging outside their small apartment mirroring the storm in her chest. Alex had been distant then, though not unkind, trying to protect them both from a love that felt too fragile to survive the pressures of youth. Emily had felt abandoned, betrayed by circumstance more than by him, and she had lashed out, leaving wounds that neither of them had known how to heal. And yet now, seeing him again, she realized how much had been left unsaid. The truth had always hovered between them, a delicate thread they had avoided touching, fearing it might unravel everything. Emily's phone buzzed with a message breaking her reverie. It was Alex. Coffee tomorrow. There's something I need to explain. Her heart skipped a beat. Something he needed to explain. Her mind raced with possibilities. Had he moved on? Had he found someone else?
Or was this an opening to uncover the truths that had haunted them for years?
She typed back a quick confirmation, trying to steady her racing thoughts.
The next morning she arrived at the cafe, nerves coiled tightly in her chest. He was already there, seated at their usual window table, a cup of coffee steaming gently in front of him.
The moment she sat down, his eyes met hers, and the same magnetic pull from yesterday surged between them, undeniable and overwhelming. Alex leaned back, taking a slow sip of his coffee before speaking, his voice measured.
Emily, I owe you an explanation.
About us.
About why I left.
About the mistakes I made.
Emily's stomach twisted.
She had carried her own share of blame and regret for years, replaying her reactions, her words, the anger that had driven a wedge between them. I've wondered about that for so long, she admitted, voice trembling slightly. I needed to know why it ended the way it did. He nodded, eyes heavy with memory. I wasn't honest with you back then. I thought I was protecting you, protecting us. But I see now that I was only protecting myself from admitting things I couldn't face. Emily's heart raced.
What things? He looked down, then back at her, vulnerability flickering across his features.
I was offered an opportunity, a move I thought would be good for my career and my future. I didn't want to burden you with it, and I feared you'd resent me for leaving. So I made the coward's choice.
I left without properly explaining, without giving us a chance to fight together.
The words struck her with a bittersweet clarity.
It explained so much, the abruptness, the distance, the silence.
Yet hearing it aloud did not raise the pain, it only reshaped it, carving new layers of understanding and regret. I've carried that for years, she whispered. I thought I was angry at you, but part of me always knew.
I just didn't know how to forgive myself for letting things end like that. Alex reached slightly across the table, hesitant, careful, but the gesture spoke volumes.
I've carried it too. Every day, every mistake, every missed word, every moment I should have stayed, I felt the weight of it. Emily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, a mixture of relief and longing. The honesty between them was raw and piercing, exposing the fragility of their hearts, yet creating a bridge that had been absent for years. And there's more, he continued, voice quieter now. I've never told anyone this, but when I left, I also believed you'd be better off without me. I thought you'd grow, find happiness, someone who could give you I couldn't. I was wrong. I see that now. Emily's breath caught. I was surviving, yes.
But surviving isn't living, Alex.
I've never stopped thinking about you.
About us.
About what could have been. He nodded, the weight of shared regret and longing settling over the table between them.
I know.
And seeing you again, it's like a reminder that some things don't die quietly, no matter how much time passes. Some connections, they persist.
For a long moment they sat in silence, the hum of the cafe round them fading into insignificance. Each was absorbed in the gravity of what had been revealed, in the delicate acknowledgement of the love that had never fully disappeared. Emily finally spoke, voice softer now, tinged with vulnerability and hope. Do you think maybe we can try again?
Carefully this time. Not rushing, not forcing it, but just seeing. Alex's eyes softened, a quiet smile tugging at his lips.
I've hoped for that every day since I left. I've imagined what it would be like to sit here with you again, to say the things I never could.
And now maybe we finally can.
The air between them seemed to shift, lighter now, yet charged with anticipation.
The past, the mistakes, the secrets, the heartbreak was acknowledged, but it no longer dominated the present. It had carved its place, yes, but it had also cleared the way for something new, something fragile and beautiful, waiting to be nurtured. As they left the cafe that day, walking slowly through the quiet streets, Emily felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration.
The secrets had been revealed, the regret spoken, and the bridge between them restored, but the path forward was uncharted, full of possibilities and uncertainties. Yet for the first time in years she felt a flicker of hope.
The kind of hope that comes not from forgetting the past, but from embracing it, understanding it, and using it to guide the heart forward. And in that moment, Emily and Alex both realized something they had long suspected but never dared to admit. Sometimes love that seems lost is only waiting for the right moment to be found again.
Emily stood at the entrance of the gallery, the sunlight streaming through the tall glass windows reflecting off the polished wooden floor. She hesitated for a long moment, taking in the high ceilings and the quiet hum of the few early visitors already wandering among the paintings. She had agreed to come mostly out of a sense of obligation to their mutual friend, and partly because there was no way to escape him.
Alex was already there, standing near the large abstract painting closest to the entrance, arms folded loosely across his chest, the faintest smoke tugging at his lips.
Her chest tightened. Seeing him here in this calm, art-filled space should have been normal, should have felt neutral.
But nothing about him or the way he looked at her was neutral.
It had been 7 years, yet he seemed impossibly close, magnetic in a way that made her heartbeat stutter.
Sliding her bag over her shoulder, she stepped forward, and their eyes met. That magnetic pull, a mix of longing, regret, and the thrill of rediscovery coiled tight in her chest.
"Ready for this?" he asked quietly, voice just above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile tension. Emily took a deep breath, forcing her voice steady. "As ready as I'll ever be." He tilted his head slightly, eyes scanning hers, the faintest hint of a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "Good, because there's no escape now."
Her lips curved into a small, tense smile.
"I was hoping you'd forgotten that about me, my inability to escape anything," she said lightly, though her stomach knotted at the nearness of him. "I could never forget," he murmured, the warmth in his tone sending a shiver up her spine. The first few minutes were painfully awkward. They drifted from one painting to another, exchanging small, cautious observations about the artwork. Emily noticed the way sleep brushed her arm as he leaned to examine a painting, and she felt a spark run through her chest. "This artist leaves mistakes visible," Alex said softly, studying a canvas filled with jagged, raw strokes. "It feels honest." Emily followed his gaze, nodding slowly. "I like that. There's something brave about leaving it raw. Something real." He glanced at her, and in that brief moment it felt as though he were peering straight into her heart. "Just like some people," he added quietly, almost to himself. "That caught some people?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. He looked at her, eyes steady, and smiled faintly. "You know, people who have been honest even when it's hard, who leave themselves exposed."
Emily's throat tightened, the ache of old longing surfacing.
She remembered the countless times he had seen her in ways no one else could, had known her fears, her dreams, the spaces between her words.
And now all that history, all that unspoken emotion hung between them in the quiet gallery.
They moved slowly, deliberately from piece to piece, their conversation carefully balanced between casual remarks and charged reflections of the past. "I didn't know you liked abstract work," Emily said, glancing at him as he studied a canvas dominated by jagged blues and stark reds.
I don't, he admitted, a faint chuckle escaping.
"But I like seeing what it makes me feel."
And I like sharing that with someone who understands.
Her chest tightened. "Someone who understands that used to be us," she whispered. He turned to look at her, eyes softened, shadowed with years of regret. "It still is, Emily. It didn't go anywhere. You didn't leave, I did." The words hit her in a way she hadn't anticipated. She swallowed hard, remembering the night he left, the slammed door, the storm raging outside, the hollow ache that had lodged itself in her chest.
I thought I was angry at you, she admitted, but part of me I never really stopped thinking about you.
He leaned closer, the faint scent of his cologne brushing against her senses warm and familiar.
I never stopped thinking about you either,
He murmured. "Every day, every hour, even when I tried to move on, even when I told myself it was for the best." A wave of emotion rose in her chest, almost overwhelming her. She wanted to reach out to close the small space between them, but restraint held her back. The gallery felt impossibly small, yet every glance, every brush of his arm against hers amplified the tension. They lingered before a painting of a sprawling cityscape, sunlight bouncing off the glass in golden streaks.
Emily found herself remembering a night in college when they had walked through streets much like this, holding hands, laughing softly, feeling as though the city belonged to them alone.
"I remember walking down streets like this," she said softly. "We thought the world was ours then." Alex's gaze softened. "We thought we had forever. And maybe we still do, in a way." She caught the wistful edge in his voice. "Maybe, But it feels like we have to figure out how to survive the present first.
Survive the present, he echoed, a small smile tugging at his lips. She nodded, biting her lip.
Being new is terrifying, but also right.
Alex laughed softly, a warm, low sound that sent a shiver down her spine.
I know.
It's the same for me.
7 years of absence, and yet being near you feels like home.
And danger. All at once.
They moved toward another room, forced together by the need to find their friends. Every step was filled with subtle tension, her shoulders nearly brushing, the brush of his hand against hers as they shifted, the occasional meeting of eyes that lingered just a second too long.
I didn't realize how much I missed this, Emily admitted quietly. Just being near you even like this.
He turned slightly toward her.
I missed it too.
More than I realized.
And I didn't know it until now.
Her chest tightened, her pulse accelerating.
It's difficult, isn't it?
All this history, and yet all this longing. He nodded, gaze intense.
Yes.
But maybe that's the point.
Maybe the longing is the part that proves it never really ended.
Emily laughed softly, a sound filled with relief and a strange thrill.
Maybe. Or maybe it's the part that makes surviving tonight impossible. Alex's eyes sparkled, a subtle teasing note in the tension.
Impossible or irresistible?
She felt a heat rise to her cheeks. Both, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. By the time they found their friends in the next room, neither wanted to break the spell. They had spent hours in forced proximity, yet it felt like only minutes.
Every glance, every subtle gesture, every quiet exchange of words had rebuilt a bridge that 7 years of absence could not destroy.
Walking home later, Emily reflected on the evening. The tension, the longing, the memories, and the subtle flirtation had all converged in a single night. Forced proximity had stripped away pretenses, revealing the truth some loves, no matter the distance or time, never fade. And she knew with a certainty that surprised her that neither she nor Alex would ever be the same after this evening. The city lights spilled into Emily's apartment, soft gold pooling across the hardwood floors. The door clicked shut behind her, and for a heartbeat, the apartment felt impossibly quiet, too quiet for the whirlwind of emotions swirling in her chest. Alex was still there. He hadn't left. The excuse had been casual, almost mundane. I just wanted to make sure you got home safe.
But Emily knew better.
7 years of memories, unspoken words, and unresolved longing could not be contained by politeness or habit. They stood across from each other, neither moving, the charged air between them heavier than any conversation could bear.
Emily's gaze flicked to his hands, the subtle tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes searched hers with a mixture of hesitation and yearning.
I can't believe how fast tonight went, she whispered, more to herself than to him.
He moved a step
Closer, careful, deliberate.
Neither can I. But I also can't ignore how right it felt.
Being new, seeing you laugh, touching you even lightly.
Her chest tightened, pulse hammering against her ribs.
Alex, this is intense.
I didn't expect it to feel like this.
Neither did I, he admitted,
Voice low, almost reverent.
I thought maybe we could be calm, civil, but being with you, it's like all the years never happened.
Like nothing is over between us.
Emily swallowed hard, the words she had tried to contain for years bubbling up. It's like the past never really left.
Every memory, every moment is still here. He stepped closer, the space between them shrinking by inches. I felt it too.
All this time.
The regret, the longing, the things I never said, the chances I never took. Her hand hovered near his almost involuntarily, trembling with the magnetic pull she had tried to deny.
And now,
she asked softly, voice fragile but steady. Now that we're here together.
Alex's gaze softened, almost painfully.
Now I don't want to waste another second pretending it's over.
I want to be here with you.
Even if it's scary.
Even if it's uncertain.
A shiver ran through her, both from the words and from the nearness of him.
Memories surged unbidden, late-night conversations, laughter in dimly lit rooms, the brush of his hand against hers that had once set her world alight.
Every memory collided with the present, amplifying the ache she had carried quietly for years.
Emily took a hesitant step closer.
I don't know if I'm ready, but I also know I've wanted this.
Used for so long.
Alex's fingers brushed hers, tentative, electrifying. The touch, so light, was enough to make her knees weaken slightly, to remind her of every time she had longed for him in the past.
We can take it slow, he said.
But we can't pretend it's not real anymore.
Her breath hitched, chest rising and falling with the rapid rhythm of suppressed desire and emotion. It's real, she whispered. And terrifying.
He moved closer still, careful not to overwhelm her, yet unable to resist the pull.
Terrifying, yes. but also right.
The apartment seemed smaller now, the air charged with possibility.
Emily could feel the magnetic tension in every step, every heartbeat. When their hands finally intertwined, it was both gentle and electric, a perfect paradox of restraint and yearning.
7 years, she murmured, almost to herself.
7 years of thinking, waiting, hoping.
I've been hoping too, he replied softly. And now we have a chance to finally get it right. She looked up at him, their foreheads nearly touching, breaths mingling in the quiet glow of the city night. The moment was delicate, fragile, yet laden with the promise of renewal. Every ounce of tension, every memory, every regret had led to this, an intimate, unspoken acknowledgement that the love between them was far from over. Emily's heart swelled with longing, fear, and hope all at once. We should talk, she whispered, though her voice carried more vulnerability than command. About everything.
About the past and what we want now.
Alex nodded, his thumb brushing lightly over the back of her hand.
Yes, we'll talk. We'll be honest.
No running.
No hiding.
Just us.
For the first time in years, the air between them felt safe yet electrifying.
Every hesitation, every lingering touch, every shared glance carried the weight of history, but also the exhilarating possibility of the future. The city outside glittered like a scattering of tiny stars, but inside Emily's apartment time seemed to stretch and bend, focusing only on the two of them.
The gallery evening had ended hours ago, yet neither had left, neither wanted to break the fragile spell that had settled between them.
Alex sat on the arm of the sofa, careful to maintain space, but Emily could feel the warmth radiating from him, a magnetic pull that tugged at her chest. She sank into the cushions, curling her legs beneath her, every nerve alive with tension.
This being here with you, she began softly, voice hesitant, it feels like the world shrinks to just this room, just this moment.
He smiled faintly, gaze lingering on her, shadows and lamplight dancing across his face.
It does, and yet somehow it feels like the world is holding its breath, waiting for us to decide.
Her heart thudded. Decide what? She asked, though she already knew.
To stop pretending that it's over, he said quietly.
To stop pretending that the past 7 years didn't matter, or that we didn't matter to each other.
Emily's throat tightened, and she looked down at her hands.
She had rehearsed this night in her mind for years, imagining the conversations, imagining the reconnections, imagining the tension, but reality was sharper and more exquisite than she had ever imagined.
I've carried so much with me, she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Regret, longing, the things I wish I could have said, the nights I thought about you and hated myself for not saying them. He leaned forward slightly, eyes dark with emotion, the faintest edge of vulnerability breaking through the calm facade he usually wore.
I've carried the same.
Every day, every moment, and I thought leaving was the only way to protect you, to protect myself. A long silence stretched between them, heavy but tender.
And yet,
in that silence, every word had been spoken through glances, through subtle shifts of posture, through the magnetic tension that made her pulse race.
Emily's gaze lifted slowly to meet his.
Do you ever regret it?
Leaving.
His breath caught, and he ran a hand through his hair, a small, almost painful gesture.
Every single day, he confessed.
I thought I was doing the right thing, but I see now that the right thing would have been to stay, to fight, to be honest about everything. Her chest ached at the admission, a mixture of relief, longing, and the old ache that never fully disappeared.
I thought about that too,
she said softly. The nights I spent imagining if you had stayed. If we hadn't let everything fall apart. He moved slightly closer, the space between them almost unbearable. We have a chance now, he said, voice low, intimate, pulling at her heart. A chance to stop imagining, to start living it. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for hers, hesitating for just a fraction of a second before their fingers intertwined. The touch was gentle, but electric, sending shivers up her spine and igniting a warmth she had thought dormant. I don't know if I can trust myself, she whispered, to not get hurt again, to not let the past ruin this.
Alex tilted his head, eyes soft but intense.
Then we take it slow, one step at a time. But we don't run. We don't hide.
We face it together. She nodded, a small, shaky breath escaping her lips.
Together, she echoed.
The minutes stretched into hours as they talked, moving from the confessions of the past to small, tender jokes, the shared nostalgia of memories long buried, the quiet comfort of simply being near one another. Every glance, every subtle brush of hands, every shared smile built the fragile bridge of intimacy between them. Then, inevitably, the conversation faded, leaving only the sound of their breathing and the quiet hum of the city outside. The tension was no longer just emotional, it had become physical, subtle, but undeniable. The warmth of his leg nearly touching hers, the magnetic pull of his gaze, the faint brush of his fingers, as they adjusted his position, it all combined into a delicious, nerve-tingling awareness of proximity. Emily's lips parted slightly, her pulse racing. "Alex," she whispered, the single word carrying years of longing, regret, and hope. He leaned closer, careful, deliberate, their foreheads nearly touching, breaths mingling. "I know," he murmured, voice low and intimate. "I've wanted this, all of it, for years." She began, voice hesitant. "I don't know how we got here so fast, or maybe I do. But it feels inevitable."
Alex's eyes softened, dark and intense, holding her gaze.
"It is inevitable," he murmured. "After everything, after 7 years, some things can't be denied. And this," he gestured slightly to the space between them, "this is one of them." Her heart pounded, chest tightening with anticipation and fear. "I've waited for a chance like this," she admitted, voice trembling slightly. "Even if I didn't know it consciously." He leaned closer, careful, deliberate, his gaze never leaving hers.
"Me too.
"Every day, every moment, I wanted this, to be close to you again." Emily's breath caught as the distance between them shrank. The faintest brush of his hand against hers sent a jolt of electricity through her body, igniting nerves she hadn't realized had been dormant for years. "Alex," she whispered, almost a plea, a tremor in her voice betraying the flood of emotion she felt. He closed the gap, their foreheads touching lightly, breaths mingling, each aware of the other's heartbeat, each savoring the tension that had built over years of absence. "I've wanted you," he said softly, voice low and intimate, "even when I told myself I couldn't." Emily's hands found his, gripping gently, but tightly, as if holding on for dear life. "I've wanted you too," she confessed. "More than I can ever put into words." The moment stretched, charged with longing, hesitation, and unspoken desire. Every instinct screamed to close the remaining distance, yet restraint lingered, a delicate dance between fear and yearning.
Finally, Alex tilted his head slightly, eyes half closed, giving her the smallest, almost imperceptible signal of permission.
Emily's lips parted, breath shaky, and she leaned forward. The kiss was tentative at first, soft and questioning, a gentle press of lips that spoke volumes more than words ever could.
Then, as the years of longing, regret, and unspoken emotion flooded between them, it deepened, slow, deliberate, and aching with desire.
Emily felt her body respond, a shiver running through her as his hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing lightly over her skin. Every nerve, every memory, every suppressed emotion ignited in a single, intoxicating moment. When they finally broke apart, breathless, foreheads resting together, the world outside ceased to exist. The years of distance, the heartbreak, the regrets all melted into the quiet realization that they were here together, and the love between them had never truly faded. "I missed you," she whispered, voice barely audible. "I missed you too," he replied, nuzzling gently against her temple. "I can't believe we're here," she whispered, voice trembling slightly. "After all this time, it feels unreal." He tilted his head, eyes soft yet intense. "It's real," he said quietly. "I promise you it's real. And I've wanted you for years, even when I told myself I couldn't." Her hands found his, gripping lightly, searching for reassurance as well as connection. "I've wanted you too," she admitted. "Every day, even when I tried not to. Even when I tried to move on, I never really did." He leaned closer, their foreheads touching, breaths mingling. "I know," he murmured.
"I felt it too.
"And now we can't ignore it anymore." The air between them was charged, almost alive, vibrating with the tension of years lost and emotions finally unleashed. Emily's heartbeat raced as Alex brushed a stray strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering on her cheek. The touch was gentle, yet it sent a shiver down her spine, igniting something deep inside her. "I don't want to rush this," he said softly, voice low, intimate, "but I also can't stop wanting you. Not now. Not ever again." Her chest tightened, a mixture of longing, fear, and desire. "Neither can I," she admitted, leaning closer, drawn to him as if by gravity. "It's overwhelming." Alex's hand moved to her neck, thumb brushing lightly against her skin. "Then let's feel it," he whispered.
Every bit of it.
"The longing, the ache, the desire, let it be ours tonight." Emily shivered, closing her eyes briefly at the intensity of the moment.
She had imagined this night countless times, but reality was sharper, more intoxicating than any fantasy.
The tension, the closeness, the sheer inevitability of them, it was overwhelming, yet it felt right. Their lips met again, slow at first, exploring, testing, each kiss laden with the weight of 7 years of longing and regret.
Then, as if a dam had broken, the kisses deepened, becoming urgent yet tender, desperate yet careful.
Every touch spoke volumes, every movement a confession of love, every pause a silent acknowledgement of their past and their future. Emily's hands roamed lightly, tracing the lines of his shoulders, the curve of his arms, memorizing him again as if she could never get enough.
Alex responded in kind, his fingers gentle but insistent, pressing close without overwhelming, guiding her yet surrendering to the intensity of the moment.
The room seemed to shrink around them, the hum of the city outside fading until only the warmth between them remained. Every sigh, every whispered word, every brush of lips against skin was electric, igniting nerves that had lain dormant for too long. "I've missed this," Emily whispered against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her lips.
I've missed you, everything about you.
"And I've missed you," he replied, his voice deep and tender, fingers brushing through her hair. "Every day I wasn't with you, I regretted it."
And now I have you again, and I won't let go.
They paused briefly, foreheads touching,
Eyes closed, breaths mingling, hearts racing in perfect sync. In that quiet, charged moment, it was not just a kiss or a touch, it was a reclamation.
A promise.
A reminder that some loves, no matter the distance, no matter the time, are meant to endure.
Emily opened her eyes, meeting his gaze, seeing in it every word they hadn't spoken yet.
Tonight, she whispered, voice trembling with emotion, we stop pretending.
We let it be everything it should be.
Alex nodded, brushing his lips briefly against hers.
"Tonight and every night after, if you'll have me," he murmured.
The morning sunlight poured into Emily's apartment,
Gentle and golden, but it did little to ease the knot of tension lingering in her chest. Last night, the kisses, the closeness, the silent confessions still hummed in every nerve, a mixture of warmth, desire, and fragile hope.
But today, reality came in the form of her friends. They had insisted on brunch, promising to catch up and celebrate their renewed connection with Alex.
Emily had hesitated, heart still tangled in yesterday's emotions, but Alex had insisted on coming.
We faced them together, he had said with that quiet, confident warmth that always made her pulse flutter.
Now seated in the corner of a bustling cafe, Emily could feel the tension in the air. Alex sat beside her, calm on the surface, but she could feel the subtle stiffness in his posture, an echo of her own uncertainty. Across the table, her best friend Mara leaned forward, a mischievous glint in her eyes.
"So Alex," she began casually, voice light, but loaded with intent, "Emily tells me you've been spending a lot of time together lately. Must be intense."
Alex's jaw tightened slightly, though his smile remained polite. "Yes, intense in a good way," he said carefully, aware of Mara's tone. Mara tilted her head, eyes sparkling with teasing suspicion.
I can imagine.
"But Emily, tell me, are you sure he's ready?"
7 years is a long time.
People change. Emily felt heat rise to her cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from the subtle challenge in Mara's tone. "I think we both know what we want," she said, voice steady, but tinged with tension. "We're being honest now. That's what matters."
Mara's smile widened, though it didn't reach her eyes.
"Of course. Just don't rush right."
Sometimes things that feel easy and right can get complicated fast.
Alex caught Emily's eye across the table, the tension
Palpable.
The words were innocent enough, but the look in Mara's eyes suggested a test, a subtle challenge to their fragile reunion.
Emily's chest tightened,
Jealousy, frustration,
and protectiveness all mixing in a complicated knot.
as brunch continued, small comments and playful jabs kept surfacing.
Mara mentioned casually that some people from the past are always tempting, making both Emily and Alex shift slightly in their seats, uncomfortable but restrained.
Emily leaned slightly closer to Alex, a silent anchor amidst the tension. He responded by brushing his hand lightly over hers under the table, a subtle, grounding gesture, but it only amplified the electricity between them. Mara seemed to notice, a smirk playing on her lips.
"Oh, I see.
"Some things are clearly stronger than rumors," she said, voice teasing yet pointed.
Emily's heart raced.
"We're not rumors," she said, tone firm but controlled, meeting Mara's gaze evenly.
"We're real. And we've been honest about it from the start."
Alex nodded, his dark eyes locking with Emily's in a silent affirmation.
"Exactly. There's nothing to question here," he said quietly, voice low, but unwavering.
Mara raised her hands in mock surrender, still grinning.
Okay. I'm just testing.
"You two are fascinating."
Makes me want to watch closely."
Emily laughed softly, a mix of amusement and exasperation.
"You're impossible," she said, leaning back, though her hand still rested on Alex's under the table, a tether of reassurance.
Alex squeezed her hand lightly, a subtle, intimate gesture that spoke volumes more than any words. Mara noticed, and though her grin remained, Emily could tell the message had landed. Their bond was solid, even under scrutiny. By the end of brunch, the tension had eased slightly, but the small trials had reignited a subtle, simmering awareness of how delicate their reunion could be. Jealous friends, playful jabs, and whispered doubts had tested their connection, but instead of faltering, they had emerged stronger, more aligned, more certain of what they wanted. As they stepped outside, the sunlight bright and warm, Emily let herself exhale fully. Alex's arm brushed hers as they walked, a quiet promise in the contact. "See, we survived," he murmured, eyes twinkling with amusement and relief. "We did," she said, voice soft but confident. "And I think we'll survive anything as long as we do it together." He smiled, leaning close. "Together," he echoed. The morning had started innocently enough. Emily and Alex walked toward a quiet bookstore, enjoying the rare moments of ease after brunch. The sun warmed the streets, the city smelled of fresh coffee and baked bread, and for a moment she thought maybe, just maybe, the past was truly behind them. But then came Mara's text. "Spotted Alex with someone last night, not sure if you saw." Careful smirking. Emily's fingers froze over the phone. Her chest constricted as she read it over and over. Something about the phrasing made it feel less like a joke and more like a warning. The certainty in Mara's tone, the way she always had that sly, knowing look, made Emily's stomach twist with unease. She glanced at Alex. He walked beside her, calm, casual, unaware of the storm brewing in her mind. "Alex," she began, voice uncertain, her words trembling slightly. "What is it?" he asked immediately, turning toward her, eyes full of concern. "It's Mara. She texted me." Emily's voice cracked slightly as she showed him the message. Alex read it, and his eyebrows shot up. "With someone? Emily, I know you were with me," she interrupted, panic rising, "but she says she saw you last night. I don't know what to think." His jaw tightened. "Emily, that's ridiculous. She must mean someone else."
I was with you.
"All night." Emily shook her head, uncertainty gnawing at her.
I can't stop thinking about it.
What if she's right? What if? Alex's voice lowered, intense, desperate to reach her. "Emily, look at me. You know me. You know my heart. There's no one else. None. Not ever. Mara's messing with your mind." But Emily's chest felt tight, breath uneven.
Her mind refused to accept simple explanations.
What if she wasn't lying? What if there really was someone else? The jealousy Mara had seeded grew, twisting every memory of closeness into suspicion. They arrived at the bookstore, but the noise of other shoppers couldn't drown out the storm inside her. Every movement, every casual glance Alex gave another customer, every subtle shift in his posture became magnified in her mind. "Alex, you're talking to her," Emily said, voice tight, nodding toward a young woman at the counter who smiled politely at him. He followed her gaze, confusion flashing across his face. "Emily, that's just the cashier.
She's asking about a book I ordered. Nothing else."
Emily's lips pressed into a thin line. "Are you sure?" "Because I don't know anymore. I feel like I can't trust what I see. What I hear.
Everything feels wrong.
Alex's frustration flickered, just enough to show how desperate he was to fix this. "Emily, listen to me.
You've been with me.
We've been honest. There is nothing going on with anyone else." Her heart ached, but doubt still lingered. Mara's words, the tone, the teasing smirk in her text, they had all been calculated to make Emily question everything. And now, even with Alex right in front of her, part of her couldn't shake it. They moved through the aisles of books, tension vibrating in the air. Emily's hand brushed against Alex's as they reached for a shelf, and yet, instead of comforting, the touch only made her pulse race with conflict. She wanted to grab his hand, to hold on to him, but another part of her recoiled, afraid she might be blind to a betrayal she couldn't see yet. Alex noticed her hesitation. Emily's voice was low, almost pleading. "You have to trust me. You have to believe me. Please." She turned toward him, eyes brimming, conflicted.
I want to believe you. God, I want to.
But what if she's right?
What if I'm imagining things and you're hiding something?
The words hit him like a blow. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his frustration and heartbreak. "Emily, if you think I'd ever do that, if you think I'd hurt you after everything we've been through, I don't even know what to say." Her chest tightened even more. "I don't know either," she whispered. "I'm scared, Alex."
Scared that everything we've rebuilt could fall apart in a single moment because of I don't even know what. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, the tension stretching longer than either could bear.
Each heartbeat was loud, heavy with unsaid words and unresolved emotions.
Every glance was a mix of accusation, longing, regret, and desperate hope.
Then, as if on cue, Mara's text notification chimed again.
Emily glanced down. Oops, maybe I exaggerated.
But you know some things are tempting, smirking.
Her stomach sank even further.
Even if it was exaggerated, the seed of doubt had been planted, watered by insecurity and past heartbreak. She felt torn between the man she loved and the gnawing suspicion she couldn't yet dismiss.
Alex's hand reached for hers, tentative but firm.
Emily, we cannot let her games come between us, he said, voice soft but unwavering. You have to trust me.
Trust me with everything I am. Please.
She wanted to desperately.
But the uncertainty, the fear, the emotional whirlwind Mara had created, it clung to her like a shadow. Emily pulled her hand away slightly, emotion small, but full of hesitation.
I need to think, she whispered, tears pricking her eyes.
Alex's chest tightened, his heart aching at the distance she was forcing, even unintentionally.
Think, he said softly, swallowing the frustration and fear rising in him. But know this, I am not going anywhere.
Not now.
Not ever. Emily nodded silently, but inside, the storm raged on.
The misunderstanding had grown into a labyrinth of doubt and jealousy, a confusion that neither words nor time could untangle instantly.
They left the bookstore without speaking much, each step heavy with unspoken tension. The city felt cold and harsher, as though the world itself were reflecting the uncertainty blooming between them. Emily walked briskly, the crisp autumn air doing nothing to soothe the storm of doubt in her chest. Every step felt heavy, every heartbeat a drumbeat of anxiety. She had tried to push Mara's text out of her mind, but the seed of suspicion had rooted deeply. Even Alex's reassuring words from earlier in the bookstore seemed fragile, wavering under the weight of her own fears. As she turned the corner near the small cafe where she had first met Alex years ago, she froze. There, in the soft glow of the cafe window, she saw him, or someone who looked exactly like him, leaning close, speaking in hushed tones to a woman whose laughter carried easily in the night.
Her chest constricted, pulse spiking. She wanted to run, to retreat, to forget what she'd seen, but her legs rooted to the sidewalk. She could hear snippets of the conversation, though muffled by distance. I didn't mean to hurt you, I just...
It's okay, I understand.
Emily's breath hitched.
Every rational thought screamed that it could be anything, but her mind raced, fueled by Mara's earlier text and her own lingering insecurities.
Why didn't he warn me?
Why didn't he mention anything?
She watched frozen as Alex's hand brushed against the woman's arm, small, seemingly innocent, yet in Emily's heart it sparked a wildfire of jealousy and fear.
Her chest tightened as she imagined the possibilities. What if he had lied? What if all the warmth, the kisses, the nights together were a fragile illusion, a momentary spark for someone else? The weight of 7 years of longing felt suddenly cruel, a reminder that hope could be fragile, easily shattered. She turned away before he noticed her, heart pounding, tears threatening to spill. Each step away was heavy with regret, leaving him without confrontation, letting doubt take hold so completely. Alex, meanwhile, stepped out of the cafe moments later, scanning the street.
His eyes landed on her retreating form, and his chest tightened with frustration and concern.
Emily, he called softly, but the distance made his voice a whisper in the wind. She didn't turn. The combination of confusion, jealousy, and lingering fear kept her moving forward, desperate for clarity, yet terrified of what she might uncover if she looked back. Alex's fists clenched, a storm of emotion coursing through him, frustration, longing, and helplessness. He had not seen the woman inside the cafe as anything romantic. She had been a friend, a colleague, but the situation looked wrong. Worse, he had no chance to explain before Emily had bolted, leaving only a fractured moment in her wake. The night felt impossibly long, each second stretching with tension. Emily's mind replayed every touch, every word, every smile from Alex in the last few days, twisting them in the shadows of doubt Mara had seeded. She wondered if this was how heartbreak returned, quietly, insidiously, under the guise of misunderstanding. By the time Emily reached her apartment, the city lights blurred through tears she hadn't meant to shed. She sank onto the couch, trembling with a mixture of anger, fear, and longing. Every cell in her body ached to hear Alex's voice, to feel the warmth of his hand, but pride and confusion kept her frozen, trapped in the labyrinth of her own mind.
Meanwhile, Alex stood under the street lamp outside, staring at her building.
Every instinct screamed to call her, to chase her, to tear down the walls Mara had helped build,
but he knew she needed space to process.
Still, his heart ached with each passing moment. The love he had fought to reclaim was now threatened not by time or distance, but by a shadow of misunderstanding that seemed all too real.
Next morning, Emily walked toward her office building.
Her mind refused to calm.
Mara's text from the previous day still gnawed at her, but now another scenario had been added to the spiral.
She had seen Alex the night before smiling and talking with a woman she didn't recognize.
Even if it was innocent, the image had been burned into her mind.
Every laugh, every gesture, every gentle touch, she thought she'd been the only witness to now seen shared. At work, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a simple text. "You two make a cute couple. Hope it lasts."
Smirking.
Emily froze.
Her chest tightened.
Was it Mara?
Someone else.
A warning.
She tried to push it aside, but the seed of doubt had already taken root, twisting her emotions into knots. She glanced at her phone again. Alex had called twice, both times when she was in meetings.
She hadn't answered.
Her mind replayed all the moments from the past week, each one now suspect, his late-night texts, the casual hugs with female friends, the way he sometimes avoided her gaze for a fraction of a second. By lunchtime, Emily's anxiety had become a storm.
She couldn't focus, couldn't eat, couldn't even breathe properly.
Her colleague, noticing her distraction, asked everything okay. I think so, Emily muttered, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes.
But inside, she felt like her heart was unraveling.
Meanwhile, Alex's day had taken a different turn.
He had gone to run errands and had bumped into an old friend, a female colleague he hadn't seen in months.
They talked briefly about a project and took a picture together for social media as part of a work update.
Innocent.
Professional.
But when Emily saw the post later, she didn't see professionalism, she saw betrayal.
How could he be so careless?
She thought,
Heart hammering.
after everything, does he not realize how fragile this is? That evening, Emily confronted him.
Alex, what is this?
She demanded, holding her phone with the photo displayed.
Alex's eyebrows knitted in confusion.
Emily, that's just Jenna, a colleague from work.
We were discussing a project and took a picture for the team group. Nothing else.
You know that. Emily's voice trembled with frustration and hurt. But it looks like something else.
You're always so close to everyone.
How am I supposed to trust that you're mine? Alex ran a hand through his hair, exasperated and heartbroken. Emily, look at me.
I am yours.
You know it.
I haven't, I would never.
But Emily's doubts
Were louder than his reassurances.
I don't know if I can believe you anymore.
She whispered, turning away, heart racing.
Alex wanted to reach for her, to hold her, to explain more, but he realized that any gesture right now might be misinterpreted. He stepped back, clenched fists at his sides, and let her go reluctantly.
The night ended with both of them aching hearts full of love yet clouded with misunderstanding.
The spiral had begun, and neither knew how deep it would go.
The next morning, the spiral continued,
But this time, it was Alex's turn to feel the sting of confusion.
Emily had called a friend earlier in the week to vent about work stress. The conversation was innocent, full of laughter and shared frustrations, but Alex had happened to walk past her apartment balcony while she was talking. From his perspective, he had only seen Emily laughing and leaning close to someone else, phone pressed to her ear.
He froze mid-step.
His mind raced. Why is she so close to him?
Is she seeing someone else? All the events from the past week now combined,
Mara's meddling,
the picture with Jenna, the innocent late-night calls, all magnified into a perfect storm. The trust Alex had felt was now fraying, tangled in assumptions and shadows. Later that evening, he confronted Emily.
Why didn't you tell me who you were talking to just now? His voice was calm, but the undercurrent of hurt and fear was unmistakable.
Emily frowned, confused.
What are you talking about?
On the balcony.
You were laughing, leaning in. I didn't know who it was. Alex said, frustration spilling into the words. I saw it, Emily.
And now I don't know what to believe. Emily felt her stomach drop.
Alex, it's not what it looked like.
I was talking to it's nothing romantic, I swear. I didn't even notice you could see me. But Alex's mind had already jumped into worst-case scenarios.
I want to trust you, but I don't even know if I can anymore.
Every time I think I've got you, something happens. Something that looks like it's tearing us apart.
Tears welled in Emily's eyes.
Alex, don't let this spiral control us.
Please.
We love each other. I know it looks bad, but we can't let everything be poisoned by coincidences. They both stood there, tensed, hearts pounding, longing for each other, yet trapped in a maze of misinterpretations.
The night stretched longer, silence pressing between them, filled with unspoken words and the echoes of the misunderstandings that had multiplied over days. Neither had truly done anything wrong, but the confusion was real, and the more they tried to defend themselves, the deeper the spiral became. Each glance was suspicious, each gesture misread, each word interpreted through the lens of fear and jealousy.
By the end of the night, they were closer than strangers yet further apart than lovers caught in a tangled web that Mara's meddling, innocent coincidences, and lack of communication had spun perfectly.
And in that spiral, the most terrifying truth became clear: love alone wouldn't save them. Trust had to be fought for step by careful step through misunderstandings, doubt, and the emotional storms they had yet to navigate.
Rain fell relentlessly, pounding the streets and washing the city in sheets of silver light.
Emily's apartment felt smaller than usual, the walls pressing in, the shadows of the past week stretching long and heavy.
Every time her phone vibrated, her heart skipped a mix of hope and dread. Mara's text, the balcony scene, a photo with Alex and his colleague, the casual phone call she had overheard, they all danced in her mind like daggers, twisting every thought into suspicion. She sat on the edge of her sofa, hands trembling, phone clutched tight.
Her chest ached, a constant pressure from the storm of emotion inside her.
She wanted to call Alex, to demand answers, to hear his voice and feel that reassuring warmth, but the fear of hearing something she didn't want to hear, of uncovering something real, held her back.
A knock at the door made her jump.
Rainwater dripped from Alex's coat onto the welcome mat, his hair plastered to his forehead.
His eyes were dark, stormy,
And haunted the reflection of the tempest she felt inside herself.
"Emily," he said, voice low but urgent, "we can't keep doing this. This spiral of doubt, jealousy, and misunderstanding, it's killing us. We need to talk."
Now. Her hand shook as she clutched her phone tighter. I can't, Alex.
"Not tonight.
You
can't or you won't."
His tone sharpened, frustration threading through the tenderness.
"Emily, look at me. Please."
Tears pricked her eyes.
"I'm scared."
"I don't want to be hurt again."
Alex's expression softened, but the underlying desperation and frustration were unmistakable.
"And I would never hurt you.
I would never.
"But all of this, it's killing us, Emily. You think I'm hiding something and I'm not. You doubt me because of things that aren't real. Please don't let this spiral destroy everything we've rebuilt."
Her chest heaved with trembling emotion.
It feels real. Every glance, every call, every laugh, it feels like betrayal.
Even if it isn't. I don't know how to fight it, Alex.
I
Just can't.
He took a step closer, his hand reaching out for hers, but she flinched.
Emily, you have to trust me.
You have to believe me.
I'm yours, only yours.
Every laugh, every touch, every word I've shared with you has been real.
And I can't lose you because of misunderstandings, coincidences, or manipulations.
The rain continued to pound the windows, mirroring the storm raging inside her chest. Emily's legs felt weak, her hands trembling, her pulse hammering against her ribs. She wanted to reach for him, to melt into his arms and feel the truth of his presence, but the fear, the jealousy, the mistrust held her back. Her voice cracked.
"Alex, I don't know if I can stop imagining the worst. The photo, the balcony, the phone calls, every little thing becomes proof that something is wrong.
And I can't deal with it anymore."
Alex's jaw tightened.
"Emily, please. Listen to me. You are imagining things. None of this means anything. I have only ever wanted you.
Only ever loved you.
You've seen me, felt me, shared every moment with me, and yet somehow these small things you don't understand are poisoning everything." Tears spilled freely now, trailing down her cheeks.
I want to believe you. I really do.
But the depths of fear stronger than me right now. I feel like I'm standing on a cliff, and every step could make me fall.
Alex's voice dropped, raw and vulnerable.
Then let me catch you.
"Let me hold you. Let me fight for you. I've waited 7 years for this chance, Emily.
7 years. I cannot let this spiral tear us apart now."
Her chest tightened so violently it hurt her heart, thrumming painfully in her ears.
She wanted to run into his arms, to feel that unwavering strength, that undeniable love, but every fiber of her being was tangled in doubt.
She backed away slightly, voice barely audible. "I'm scared."
I don't want to be hurt.
Not again.
Not after everything. Alex stepped forward again, gently lifting her hands to his face. "Emily, hear me. Please.
I am yours.
Only yours. Every kiss, every touch, every word, I mean it.
And nothing can change that. You have to trust me.
Please. Don't let this spiral win." Her eyes brimmed with tears, her lips quivering.
I want to trust you, I really do. He leaned closer, voice a whisper now, raw and desperate.
Then let me prove it to you.
Let me fight through the doubts, the fear, the misunderstandings.
Let me show you that our love is stronger than anything Mara, any coincidence, any rumor, or any fear could throw at us.
For a moment, the world outside, the rain, the storm, the city disappeared.
Their breaths mingled, their hearts pounded in a chaotic rhythm, the tension between longing, fear, and desire electric in the air.
Emily felt her knees weaken, her resolve crumbling.
Finally, with a trembling voice, she whispered, I don't want to lose you.
Alex's eyes softened, relief flooding him, but his grip on her hands remained firm, anchoring her to reality.
You won't.
I swear it.
Nothing, Emily, nothing can take you from me. I will never let it happen.
She leaned into him, forehead resting against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Promise me we won't let this spiral destroy us, she whispered. Alex kissed the top of her head, voice tender but unwavering. Promise. We fight for each other.
Always.
No matter what.
And in that storm-soaked apartment, soaked in fear, longing, and unresolved tension, the spiral had reached its peak, but amidst the chaos something had shifted.
Walls of doubt had cracked, just enough for the first glimmer of trust to shine through. Emily closed her eyes, holding onto him, letting the warmth of his embrace ground her. The misunderstandings were far from resolved, but one undeniable truth remained: love tested and bruised still endured.
And together they would navigate the labyrinth of confusion, jealousy, and fear step by step, heart by heart.
The storm outside raged on, but inside, amidst the chaos of fear and longing, two hearts beat in unison, ready to face the aftermath.
The sun was spilling gold across the city, but Emily didn't notice at first. Her mind was still heavy with the echoes of the past week, Mara's meddling, the balcony scene, the photo with Alex and his colleague, and every accidental misread glance that had spiraled her heart into chaos. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled through her phone, rereading Alex's message.
I need to see you.
Please, it's time we clear everything.
Her chest felt tight.
Part of her wanted to run, to hide, to pretend none of it had happened.
But the other part, a part that had been quietly yearning for weeks, needed to see him, needed to hear his voice, needed the truth. She typed back simply,
Okay,
let's meet. The park where they had first met years ago was quiet, bathed in the golden glow of early autumn. Leaves swirled around the pathways, twirling in the breeze like fragments of old memories. Alex stood near the fountain, rain from last night glistening on his coat, his posture tense yet expectant. The moment Emily stepped into view, his eyes softened, and the weight of all the misunderstandings seemed to press against him, unspoken, but palpable.
Emily, he said as she approached, voice low, but laced with longing and vulnerability.
Thank you for coming.
her lips trembled.
I couldn't let this all of it hang between us any longer. He stepped closer, but she stopped hesitant.
The distance between them carried the weight of every doubt, every misinterpreted glance, every spiral of jealousy that had consumed them.
I know, he whispered, taking a careful breath.
I know it's been messy,
Confusing.
painful.
And I should have been more careful, more honest, more aware of how fragile this is for you. Her voice caught thick with emotion.
It's more than fragile, Alex.
Every little thing, every misunderstanding, it felt like it could break me.
Break us.
I replayed every word, every look, every gesture, trying to figure out where I went wrong.
And now you faltered, tears spilling down her cheeks.
I don't want to lose you. Alex reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. His thumbs brushed away the tears she hadn't even noticed falling. You won't lose me, Emily.
I promise.
Never.
Not to fear, not to misunderstanding, not to anyone.
She blinked, searching his eyes. Even the balcony, the photo with Jenna, the messages.
He let out a long, shuddering breath.
Every single one.
All of it was innocent. Completely innocent.
But I failed to communicate, and that failure, it made you feel small, uncertain, and I can't bear the thought of that.
You're on my heart, Emily.
Always have been. Always will be. Her body shook with a mix of fear, relief, and longing.
I wanted to believe you.
I tried.
But Morris games, my own insecurities, it was like being trapped in a storm I couldn't escape.
Alex's expression softened further, and his voice dropped, trembling with the rawness of unspoken emotions.
Then let me guide you through the storm.
Let me fight for you, for us. I've waited 7 years for this second chance, Emily.
I will not lose you again.
Not to a misunderstanding. Not to fear. Not to anyone.
Memories flashed through Emily's mind, the night she had lain awake wondering if love could return,
The ache of lost years, the longing that had never faded.
Every heartache, every regret, every quiet moment she had spent imagining a life without Alex surged up, mingling with the hope that perhaps finally this moment could heal them.
I love you, she whispered, voice breaking.
Even after all of this, I love you. Alex pressed his forehead to hers, the warmth of his breath mingling with hers. And I love you, he murmured, more than ever. And nothing can change that. Every moment we've spent apart, every misunderstanding, every tear only proves that what we have is real, Emily. It's worth fighting for. Every second, every heartbeat, every storm. She let herself lean into him, trembling with emotion.
His arms wrapped around her, holding her as if letting go would shatter both of them.
The world around them, the falling leaves, the golden sunlight, the cool breeze faded until only the two of them existed. I was so scared, Emily admitted, tears spilling freely now.
Scared that the past would repeat itself.
Scared that love like this can't last. Alex tightened his hold, voice husky. It will last, because we fight for it, together. We face every misunderstanding, every fear, every doubt together. I am yours,
Always.
and you are mine. The tension that had built over days, weeks, and years finally broke. Their lips met in a kiss, soft at first, fragile, testing the waters of trust renewed. Then, as the weight of longing and relief poured into it, the kiss deepened, carrying the emotion of every tear, every fear, every heartbeat that had been building since they reunited. Emily clung to him, hands tangled in his coat, feeling the warmth and strength of his body against hers.
I was lost without you, she whispered, voice muffled against his chest.
You were never lost, Alex replied, voice low and reverent. I was always here, waiting, loving you even from a distance. And now we have each other again. The leaves swirled around them, the sun warming their faces, the world feeling impossibly bright and alive. The spiral of misunderstanding, jealousy, and fear had peaked, but now in the aftermath they were free. Emily rested her forehead against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. I promise, she whispered. No more spirals. No more letting fear take over. Alex pressed a gentle kiss to her temple. Promise.
Always.
Together no matter what. And in that golden autumn park, surrounded by the beauty of the world and the warmth of their hearts, they realized something powerful. Love, tested, bruised, and nearly broken, was still unshakable. It was heart-throbbing, consuming, and unstoppable. Finally, they walked hand in hand, unhurried, savoring every step, every glance, every heartbeat together. The storm had passed, leaving them stronger, bound by trust and a love that would never be over.